Welcome to the Bold Orbit, a newsletter with a voice. Astro-wisdom for leaders and changemakers. This message is for the week of May 12th through the 18th, and the theme is Disrupt the Comfortable and Ground the Vision. Now, as part of my Let Her Rise series, and her meaning heart coherence, energetic awareness, and rhythms of life, this is really about the rhythms of life. Now, it's going to cover heart coherence, maybe, energetic awareness, maybe, but it really is about the rhythms of life. And what does that mean? The rhythms of life is really understanding astrology. I'm going to say that again. It's about understanding really understanding astrology, better yet. I did not say horoscope, right? This is not fortune telling. It's about understanding the planetary alignments and how the energy impacts, influences the decisions that we make and the way that we think, the way that we have our being here in this earth. I like to say, this is what I truly do believe. We are spiritual beings having a human experience. And so when you hear sometimes coaches will say that, it's an illusion or, it's really not real, the 3D experience, right? Yes, it's real in the human sense, but no, it's not real in the spiritual sense. Because in the spiritual sense, when things are all over and said and done, we go back to where it is that, energy just goes where it resonates with, right? And so it's about really understanding our energy and how we impact every day of our lives. Because we are spiritual beings having a human experience, that means spirituality never leaves us. And when I say spirituality is different from religion, religion adopts a particular belief, a particular doctrine. Spirituality sees oneness in all of it. Right? Spirituality is able to take all the different religions that people are teaching and see the oneness, see the one string that strings through it all. And you realize that you don't need to be held by some doctrine. What you realize is that it's really about having that relationship with Source, God, whatever you want to call it, but understanding that it's about having this relationship with that. Right? With the I am that I am, and becoming one with that. And knowing that depending on where we fall on that spectrum, right? Like, when you think about the feather of Mahat and it being, measuring our hearts against that feather, we've got to be able to bring that in balance. Right? And so it's about being aware of the different rhythms and navigating along that. Right? Like when it's when you're thinking about what you're going to wear, you check the weather. Right? When honestly, what we should be doing is when we think about the decisions that we need to be making or what's going on, we should be paying attention to the rhythms of the universe that we live in. Right? Farmers back in the day, the Farmer's Almanac, that's what they used to do. Right? They used to make their decisions based upon the seasons of when they're going to plant something, when it's time to harvest something. There's no difference. But it does feel like sometimes that, we're being conditioned to be robots, to have no thought process of our own, to get to the point where we don't think for ourselves, we'll rely on other people to think for us and move as robots, as cattle, to move as cattle. And I believe that when we really do hold true that we are spiritual beings having a human experience, we realize that we are called to this earth at such a time to be co-creators, to create the change that we're looking for. So it's not about complaining and fighting for it, but it's about understanding that we hold it within, right? Even the Bible says the kingdom of God is within, right? So when we go within and work on that, I truly do believe that our outside starts making changes to match what we're feeling in the inside. And so bringing spirituality everywhere, right? And for me, it's about the workplace for sure. It's about everything. And when I talk about the bold life has five 5 components for me. It's that spirituality, our personal and professional relationships, workplace and professional development, because that most of us are at work 40 hours plus a week. That impacts you, that influences you, that changes who you are. Right. And then you come home for a little few hours and you get to spend it with your family. And then right during your prime hours, you're right back at work. Right. Spirituality is key there, too. And then government, because government, we need to start getting involved in the policy, legislation. We need to start being a part of that instead of reacting to it. But we need to design it, architect it, and be very much a part of that whole process. And then also fun, because I do believe that, we're not here to just, work. I think we're here to have fun and just relax. And that allows us to be really creative and to tap into our creative sparks. Right. And so the bold orbit is for that. And that's what this is about, really looking at spirituality from so many different angles to create the bold life. Right. So it's like it's orbiting until it can settle into that bold life. Okay. So for this week, we're talking about disrupt the comfortable, ground the vision. Cosmic collision of comfort and evolution. So we know that the moon, it's the full moon in Scorpio, just happened. The full moon this morning, if you had a chance to look at it, it was beautiful. Just very luminous, very bright. And when we understand what the full moon, what that means in itself, full moon is the manifestations coming to life, right? Everything that you've been working on from the new moon up until this point is being manifested, right? So what are you manifesting? What have you been manifesting? And then with the full moon in Scorpio, that's just that scorpionic energy is all about death, rebirth, and regeneration. And it's also, Scorpio is also a water sign, and water is very emotional, right? And so sometimes these emotions, these feelings that could be surfacing up, because the full moon in Scorpio, the moon entered into Scorpio on May 10th. So this weekend could have been a trying weekend. Right? Could have been a trying weekend, and that scorpionic energy is just a lot. But right now, it is not the time to ignore what we're feeling. Right? We're in a cosmic collision of comfort and evolution. Comfort meaning that being grounded in knowing who you are, being comfortable in knowing that you have everything that you need, everything that you're looking for in this life, you have been equipped with, but you got to evolve into it. Right. So with the sun and Taurus anchoring us into what feels secure, and Uranus conjunct the sun, and Uranus is, I like to say, Uranus gives me the energy of dismantling and rebuilding. Right. There's this energy of just dismantling. Well, it's demanding we disrupt that very comfort. We're being asked to do something revolutionary. Remain grounded while being cracked open. Wow. So I said that it's about being comfortable and knowing who you are. Yes, but being comfortable knowing that it's not a comfortable time right now. Right? Being comfortable with the uncomfortable. There are feelings, there are emotions, old thought patterns that are rising up to the top, that are surfacing up. And some of us, we have this tendency to push things down. Right? Some of us, we have this tendency to suppress. Now it's not the time to suppress. Now is the time to acknowledge and let it go. And, another belief that I have is that our emotions are our teachers, right? They teach us something about ourselves that we did not know, or maybe, we know, but we haven't really paid attention, but it's teaching us something, but we don't need to hold on to that emotion, to those emotions. Right. So there's going to be a lot of uncomfortable feelings that are happening, that are rising up to the surface, old thought patterns that we thought that, we were over, but we realized that we actually didn't deal with it. We just suppressed it. And things that are not dealt with are rising. They're fully rising, especially with the scorpionic waters. Those waters are raging and it's just pushing everything up to the top. Right? But it's calling for us to be honest with ourselves and to be intuitive with those things that are coming up in our heads, not to drown ourselves in those emotions, but to pay attention and to hear what are we being taught from that? What can we take from that and then let go? So this week's question is being bold enough to ask, what am I building that truly reflects who I'm becoming? Right? Because here's the funny thing about that question is that every day you're building and every day you're becoming. Are you aware of what you're building? Because becoming is a natural result of the building. Right? What are you doing as opposed to who you're being? Allowing your being to dictate what you're doing. So let's explore all the different areas in the, that makes up the bold life. So spirituality. So the sacred surrender, it's about truly surrendering, right? That is the key message. The key message, the underlying message for this week is to surrender. Surrender to peace, surrender to knowing, and surrendering to the process of letting go. The Scorpio full moon invites a shedding of shame, secrets, and stuck energy. Those things that keep us in a loop, that keeps us from moving forward. What are those things that are keeping you from moving forward? This is a deeply spiritual portal. Why is it considered a portal? Because this energy, we're all going through it. We're all going through this energy, but we don't want to get stuck in it. Right? We don't want to get stuck in it, but we're all going through it. It is a Scorpio full moon. It asks you to stop performing wholeness and actually pursue healing. Performing wholeness means it's performative. It's just an act. It's just a play. I'm just doing this because I think that this is what you expect of me. So therefore, I'm just going to act this way or do this. When really, it's not about that. It's not about putting on a show for anyone. It's about actually doing the work that's needed so that the wholeness that you're seeking becomes real. It's not performative. It's not fake, but actually healing. And the healing process is paying attention, just simply paying attention to those thoughts and then letting them know, like, thank you. Thank you for that. Thank you for, usually like negative thoughts, for example. Usually when we have negative thoughts is because there was at one point in our lives that we needed, like our ego had to step in and protect us from a situation. But it was just that particular situation. But the ego keeps showing up in everything that you're trying to do. Even those things that you really want to accomplish, it brings that voice of self-doubt. And it's about acknowledging that voice and saying, thank you for serving a purpose at one point. But now that is no longer needed, right? Paying attention to those thoughts, those feelings that you're having, not pushing them and questioning and saying, why are you here? Why are you here? Well, you might want to ask, what do I need to learn from this? Right? That means letting go of what you thought was your identity. Sometimes there's a lot of us that we hold on to these titles. We hold on to what we feel like people expect from us. And then that becomes a prison for us. It's letting go of those things and being okay with surrendering to your pure, vulnerable self. Now, I'm not saying that you do this in front of a whole lot of people, right? That's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is that maybe you set some time aside for yourself, right? And go through that shedding process and allow yourself that time to think about what are those thoughts that you're having and what could you be learning from it? What's going to be helpful and what do you need to let go? But remembering that our emotions are I heard this last night and kind of heard it and finished the rest of the message this morning, but I really loved the caption. And so that's why I, had to listen to this video, but it was that emotions are just visitors. Emotions are visitors. They are not supposed to stay, right? We're supposed to learn from it, be thankful of it, and then bid it farewell. right? And just giving yourself that opportunity to be aware of those emotions and those feelings and those thought patterns that are coming up, and pay attention to what you're feeling, where you're feeling it, learning from it, and then letting it go, right? That is the shedding process. So for this week and for this practice, let yourself be undone and remade, not through hustle, but through heart aligned release. This part might be hard. I'll just keep it real. The things that I like to, really help people keep, check the BS on is really those things that, we hide deep down inside, and we pretend until we just can't pretend anymore. Give yourself permission to let go of all those things that you're just like, no, I'm done. When we talk about imposter syndrome, that's where imposter syndrome comes from, right? Just pretending to feel a certain way, pretending to be a certain way, pretending until the pretending no longer serves us anymore. It doesn't help. Like before we could pretend and we can go on with our day, but now it's like it's hard, right? The hustle is no longer serving you. You can't hustle your way through. It's about truly being aligning your heart, really coming from your heart space, seeing the issues, sensing those feelings from your heart space, not from your mind, not trying to analyze it in a logical way, because it's not logical. It's not logical, right? It's a feeling. There's a saying that, I've been saying over and over and over to myself, just to remind myself, to help myself stay aligned, is that it's not personal, it's vibrational. Like I am vibrating. I am being intentional about vibrating at a high frequency. That means I'm not worried about low vibrating things, and just being intentional about aligning my heart at a higher vibrational frequency, right? A higher frequency that attracts love, healing, joy, happiness, just everything falling into place. And that's what it really is. It's about being vibrational, not relying on your thought process to help you through, but really focusing on that vibrational, that resonance. What are you resonating with? And if you sit back and you just, sit still, you can see what's coming to you. And then being intentional about, is it where you want to be, and how do you raise your frequency? And really what it is these thoughts, negative thoughts, bring you down. Point blank, period. How can you think of, some success? How can you think of joy? How can you see the things that you're going through? And so let me give you an example, right? Because I can hear somebody saying, well, I don't get that. I don't see what you mean. So maybe there are some negative thoughts that are rising up within you. How do you look at that from the eyes of your heart? Well, you look at that, you could be saying, well, you know what? This is coming up for me to learn from it, and then to let it go, to be grateful for the opportunities that it had afforded me in the past, but realizing that, its time is done. And so being thankful, right? Instead of, saying, this is horrible. Why am I feeling this way? This sucks. How do you learn from it? And that's seeing through your heart space and feeling what you can learn from that. A reflective prompt for this exercise is, what part of me am I afraid to let go of, even though it's no longer serving me? What truth is ready to be honored, even if it changes everything? Very, very deep. If you can't answer it right away, maybe just ask the question out into the universe and then go on about your day. The thing that is so awesome about this body, this avatar that we're living in, is that when you really trust it to do what it's meant to do, it will come through, right? The answers will come through for you. But when you're trying to force it, it doesn't come when you force it. It's just very interesting how it's so opposite to the way that, we've been conditioned living here, on this earth, or at least I'll say, here in the United States, right? It just seems as if, it's about like hustle hard. You got to work hard. You got to do this. You got to do that. When it seems when it comes to spirituality, it's all about resting. It's all about chilling out. It's about relaxing in the knowing, right? Relaxing in the knowing and watching it unfold. It's not about chasing anything. It's realizing that it's about resonance, and that we're all magnetic, and we are attracting those things that resonate with us. If we don't like what's coming to us, then we've got to change our frequency. But ask that question. If you can't answer it right away, ask yourself that question, and then kind of go on about your day and see what comes up for you. And then maybe at night you can journal what has come up for you for that. So the old BS here, because it's all about the BS check-in. The old BS is, if I'm still healing, I can't lead. That's BS. You sure can lead. You want to know? I think it makes you such a powerful leader when you're healing, because it makes you a little bit more attuned to the people that you're working with. You're in line with what they're going through. You see what they're going through because you're intentional with your own feelings. Because we can't give to people what we can't give to ourselves. And as we're healing ourselves and practicing what that feels like and what that looks like for us, it's amazing how you can pick it up in somebody else, and you can be there for somebody else. And it's as if your magnetic powers are so much stronger, so much more powerful when you're healing yourself. So you definitely can lead. That's BS. The bold truth is that healing is leadership. It creates the capacity for deeper connection and visionary presence. You're able to see more because you're creating more space within yourself, right? It's shedding the process. When you're able to shed some of those things that no longer serve you, you make room for things that do serve you. And you realize that, not only are you serving yourself, but you also serve others at the same time. When you're serving yourself, that's a deep thing right there, where you're being an example. And that's why I think that, that's why I feel strongly that spirituality is something that we take everywhere. I know sometimes people will say, well, it doesn't belong in the workplace and this. And I think that if you're trying to force people to believe a certain way, it does not belong in the workplace. But I do believe that you have spiritual people walking around. And when they are so in tune with their spirituality of love, light, and wisdom, they become an example for others to see. And it causes other people to want to change. It just does something. It's just this energy that heals. And before you know it, you start seeing things that you probably didn't see before. And healing is that. When you have leaders that are healing, it's an awesome thing, because you start to see how everyone starts to come together within the office, right? Within your team. People start coming together. So let's move on to the personal and professional relationships. Speak soft, stand strong. Now, the Venus in Pisces lead with grace and spiritual compassion, where it's about, having that, that loving kindness, speaking with loving kindness, truly is what that's about. We know the Pisces is also a water sign, can be very emotional. And then you bring the Venus. Venus is all about beauty and aesthetic. And it's really that feminine energy. So you lead with grace and spiritual compassion. Mercury in Taurus is be clear, slow, and deliberate. Mercury is very fast, right? It's like that quick silver, very, very fast. Mercurial, right? Sometimes when I think about Flash, you think about Flash. Flash is like Mercury. So be clear, slow, and deliberate. And then you look at Taurus. Taurus is about those five senses, right? Being grounded in those five senses. Be clear, slow, and deliberate. And then you take both of that. You take the softness of Venus and Pisces, really the watery aspect of Pisces, and Venus, Mercury in Taurus. And what do you get? You get where it's about standing strong, but you speak. And it's funny because, how do I say it? Because sometimes, like, here's what I'm hearing in my head, right? As I'm talking through this, is that, you might feel like, well, speak soft, like Like, what does that mean? But it really isn't about speak softly. It's about speaking with kindness, right? Speaking with kindness, leading with grace, right? Paying attention, not allowing things to move so fast, because Mercury will do that. And Taurus, that energy, the Taurus energy, you can step into that bullheadedness, right? So how do we, just slow down a bit, and speak with, with intention, kindness, yet speak powerfully, because Mercury is all about communication. It's all about being able to communicate. So with Venus and Pisces and Mercury and Taurus, this is the week to check in with how you communicate in relationships, especially the ones that matter most. With the shedding process of, going back up to the spiritual, the shedding process of that Scorpio full moon can put you in your emotions, can really put you in a place where you don't want to lash out. Because as you're going through your healing, sometimes there might be some hard times. Maybe there's some emotions that are rising, but how can you really be thoughtful? How can you really, really be intentional about what it is that you want to say, and speak it with clarity, right? Not being confused, not being muddy, but really being clear and deliberate. Let your words land with intention, not reactivity, and don't confuse silence with peace. Sometimes clarity is the kindest gift. Be sure, right? Just don't assume. This is not the time for assumption, because we already know it's that cosmic collision with comfort and evolution. We know that right now it's about shedding old habits, old ways of thinking, and things rising up to the surface. But it's not always the smartest thing to really react on that. Respond, yes. React, no. Right? Where am I holding back my truth to keep the peace? How can I speak with love but stop shrinking? The BS check-in, old BS. It's better to stay quiet than risk tension. That's some BS. Because I'm going to tell you right now, you don't risk tension. You probably risk tension in the external world, but you're in your internal world, that tension is rising high. Right? It's not better to stay quiet. It's better to speak the truth, but speak it with grace and loving kindness, and really be deliberate and intentional about the message that you're trying to get across. What's the whole purpose of what you want to say? Why are you talking? Right? Like maybe getting clear with yourself and saying, what is the point of what it is that I'm trying to say? What do I need to say so that I show up in my authentic self? Right? Because it's about creating that space for that development, for the new way of being to show up. Right? Because we talked about it earlier in that first question. What am I building that truly reflects who I'm becoming? Right? What am I building that truly reflects what I'm becoming? If you're keeping the peace if you're keeping the peace but shrinking, that's what you're becoming. You're becoming small. Clear is kind. When I speak from truth, I create space for real connection. This can be hard sometimes, because just because you speak from that space, from that, loving kindness space, doesn't mean that people are not going to react to you. And so that's why it's really important to really think about what's the point of what it is that you want to say as well. Maybe you need to say what you need to say, and how they feel about it is really their business that you really can't control. How can you speak with love, though? And yet, do not shrink. Do not shrink. Shrinking doesn't do anything for anybody. It really does. It really does not. Shrinking doesn't do anything. Don't shrink. Take up space. That's what we're here to do, is to take up space, to expand. And it's uncomfortable, because it does feel like we've been conditioned, to not think for ourselves, to really give way for somebody else to tell us what to do, to really look for everything, outside of ourselves. when really that's not. I believe that it's easier for people to manage the civilizations, to manage the masses. To me, it's just a form of control. Right? How do you really know what it is that you want, and how do you really work towards that intentionally? Create space for yourself. Create space, keep it real. And what you'll find is that, yes, some people will be repelled from that, but then you will attract people. And I think that that's the whole point, is to attracting those that you're meant to be with. But when we have that mask on, and we're shrinking, we attract people who are looking for that. And we're over that. We're over that today. Workplace and professional development, disrupt with integrity. So what does that look like in the workplace? So in the workplace, you might have to challenge traditions. Question what feels stagnant. Why are we doing this? This doesn't make sense. It looks like the purpose, the objective of what we're trying to do is XYZ, but you're telling me that we need to do that. I'm just really curious. How does that fully align? I just want to make sure that what I'm doing makes sense. I mean, I'll tell you right now, some managers don't like that. Some leaders don't like that. They want you to just hush up and just do what they say. Aye, aye, Captain. And here's what I'll say to that. This is how I respond to that. If you're just looking to keep your job no matter what, then I guess you got to do what you have to do. But if you're looking to really find your peace, then that's what you're doing. How do you stay in alignment with that? Sometimes we find ourselves in situations where we can't show up as our real selves, and we have to really start thinking, like, what is your next step? Because at the end of the day, you are living your own life. What is your next step? And so I always say with challenging traditions, I'm all for it. Challenge the traditions, but know that some people, some leaders, some managers are very insecure. And if they're not secure within themselves, they'll feel like you're challenging them as opposed to challenging the process, and they'll react. But then you have a choice there. Do you react or do you respond? Reacting is just reacting, right? Acting out, just blow for blow. But a response is being able to think about it, think about what's going on, and think, okay, where are you trying to go with what you say? Because what you say will kind of, steer where you move next. So how do you do that? Align with values, right? So when you're challenging your tradition, align with those values that you have for yourself. Ensure your work reflects your principles, right? If you're aligning with values and you're doing it from a healthy way, and you'll know when you're doing it from a healthy way, because it's really about trusting your heart. And what do I mean by that? Like, because integrity is usually a value. And you might have somebody say, well, you're not showing any integrity because you're lying. Well, maybe they're showing a different perspective. And that's what I mean by aligning with values in a healthy way. You don't want to, just automatically say someone is not, showing themselves with full integrity, because you want to make sure you understand their definition of the word that they're using. And so that's what I mean by healthy. But align with your values. What are your values? Do you know what your values are? And when you look at the traditions that you're wanting to challenge, how do they align with your values and who you are and what you're building on to become? Embrace discomfort. See challenges as portals to progress. It's going to be uncomfortable, especially if you're not somebody who has traditionally challenged anything. It's going to be uncomfortable because people might push back. And that's okay. Honestly, I think it's okay if somebody pushes back, because I think that it's fair. It's fair. It gives you an opportunity to say, okay, well, let me see why let me provide some more context. I think, challenging in that sort of way is fine. If you're the one that's being challenged, somebody is challenging traditions and you're being challenged, see it as progress. Maybe it gives you an opportunity to be part of innovation, right? To be a part of the movement for change. Embrace it. Ask yourself, why am I feeling this way? That is a number one question to ask every time you feel discomfort, especially when somebody's challenging you in the workplace. Ask yourself, why am I feeling this way? because why you're feeling that way may give you a whole lot of context as to what you probably need to do next. Right? If you're feeling discomfort because you're just like, wait a minute, she never challenges me. So why is she doing that all of a sudden today? You're probably not coming from the right space. Right? So embrace it. Ask yourself, why am I feeling discomfort when somebody says this? Are you attached to that because you were the one who came up with the idea? So now you feel like you're being attacked? Right? And sometimes and maybe you want to ask yourself, when you're being challenged, or, when this is coming to your front door, maybe you're asking yourself, are they challenging me or are they challenging the process? Because if they're challenging the process, you can totally get behind that. If they're challenging you, then maybe that's the conversation you need to have with that person. But embrace it. Look at discomfort as a sign, as a message. Don't drown in it. Don't drown in it, but definitely learn from it and then let it go. Right? Discomfort is what I like to say is like when you look at a rubber band. I don't have a rubber band in my hand, but if I had a rubber band and you were pulling the rubber band, the discomfort comes in that tension. Right? But the thing about it is that when you cause that tension, there can be some movement, because if there's no tension in the rubber band, it's just going to fall down to the table, right? But if I have the rubber band in my hand and I cause some tension, depending on where I'm applying that tension, it's going to move somewhere. It's going to fly somewhere. And so tension is not bad, right? Discomfort is not bad, but when you sit in it, it becomes horrible. Then build for the future. Create systems that support evolution. Right? Things are changing so quickly and so rapidly. How do we build for the future? That's going to take teams. It's going to take people working together. Right? You're not going to have just one person, a leader, a manager who's going to know how to build for the future all by themselves. If you have a team of people and they are your front line, include them into the conversation. I believe that now is no longer the time to have silos, to go into a different room, close the door, and have a conversation with just a few of the leaders in your room, in the room. No, I believe that is over. That is over. Bring the people in the room who are actually doing the work. And make them a part of the conversation, include them into the conversation, find out what systems would they like to see that supports evolution, since they're the ones who are doing the work. Right? The sun conjunct Uranus is an electric invitation to rethink how you lead, manage, and grow. This energy is bold, innovative, and sometimes uncomfortable, but it's here to help you ask better questions about what's outdated, inefficient, or misaligned. Whether you're leading a team or managing your own business, this is the week to challenge traditions that feel stagnant. Take an honest audit. Is your work aligned with your values? Are your systems built to support the future? Right? Are they supporting what's coming down the pipeline? Or is it supporting the past? That means that when people try to do something different or do something that makes more sense with how things are working today, they can't because of the current system that they're working in. It holds them back. Innovation doesn't mean that you're starting over. It just means that you're evolving with courage. And innovation doesn't mean a huge overhaul. It can mean small iterations. Right? But how can you bring some of that innovation, that innovative energy, right? That Uranus energy into play and really leverage that? The prompt, the reflective prompt. What part of my workflow, leadership style, or vision needs to be reimagined? How can I embrace discomfort as a portal to progress? Another question to really sit with. All right, another question to really sit with. If you don't have the answer right away, that's fine. You don't need to have the answer right away. It just needs to be a reflective prompt, a question that you're intentionally is the word. Yeah, intentionally is the word I'm looking for. That you're really asking yourself, that you're really being honest with yourself and asking, okay, what part of my workflow, my leadership style, my vision, right? These are sensitive things, especially for a leader, can be really sensitive, especially if you feel like your vision has been on point and it's a vision that you've had for a while. But if it really isn't getting you anywhere, or if it really isn't impacting the people that you're working with, is it time for it to be reimagined? right? So if it's working, don't change it. That's some BS, because it could be working today, but is it going to be working for tomorrow? Right? Including the people who need to sit at the table and that can really answer that question for you. Right? The bold truth: sustainability requires evolution. What worked then may not serve now, and that's okay. How do you create collaboration? How do you create a team of people to get behind this? Include them with the reimagining. Include them in the reimagining of the vision. Now let's get to the government affairs. Your voice is policy. Now this one, is government affairs, and I always have to say this, but everyone has to get involved. Everyone has to get involved, and your voice is your policy. When you speak your truth, transformation begins with honesty. You get to share your perspective. People need to hear your perspective. I want to hear your perspective. I may not agree with it, and that's fine. You may not agree with my perspective, but I want to hear it, because what I believe that I hold true is that when it comes to government, you just can't force one way on people. I don't think it's right. I don't think it's fair. I don't think it's right. We live in a community where there's going to be so many different thought processes, so many different experiences, just so much diversity, that how do you start giving space, creating space to hearing what people have to say so that you can put something together, or what you're advocating for. Stand in your values. Be unapologetic about what matters to you. If it matters to you, it matters to you, gosh darn it. We don't need groupthink, but what we need is people to be honest about what it is that, that you want to see. And as we start hearing more and more and more of people's, perspective on what it is that they want to see, speaking their truth, standing in their values, we can come together and we can reshape policy. We can create change through understanding what's going to meet the community needs. I think that when it becomes just too one-sided and you just have one thought process, it's not right, in my opinion. It's not fair. And how fair can you be in government? Here's what I believe. I believe that if we can find a way to get more people involved, and I know every time I say this, I have leaders, people, who are who are elected officials will say, "Oh gosh, you can never get anybody to come to these things to provide public comment." I just think that we need to even reimagine how government even works. Maybe you're not waiting for somebody to reach out to you. Maybe you're reaching out to people as an elected official. You're making it your business to reach out to people, communicate with people, making yourself available, town halls, different events where people can come talk to you. You're not waiting for somebody to call you. Oh, nobody calls me. Nobody calls. Nobody sends me a message. Nobody says anything. Well, then you go out to your constituents and you talk to them. Okay. I got a little passionate and went a whole other way. But for those who don't really get involved, your voice is policy. So as Pluto retrogrades, and retrogrades is meaning that it appears as Pluto is moving backwards, but it's really not. It's just the way that, we're on this earth and the way that the orbits are moving. It appears that way, but that energy of it looking like it's going back causes for reflection. And Pluto is the planet or the celestial body of transformation. So it's like reflecting. So as Pluto is reflecting its energy, right? Just reflecting that energy, and the sun conjunct Uranus, and Uranus is also about, electrical innovation, dismantling. You put all that together and it stirs the status quo. The message is clear. Transformation begins with truth. And in civic spaces, truth requires a voice, not noise, not perfection, but presence. Bold leaders don't just react to policy, they reshape it by standing fully in their values, using your voice. I think that that's one of the things that, I'm hoping to see when it comes to government affairs and how people really start getting involved, is that people realize that it's not just meant for just a few people. It's not just meant for a few people that look a certain way. It's meant for everybody to get involved, to really understand it, understand how the process works so that you can be a part of reshaping it. Government needs to be reshaped, reimagined completely. The way that it's been working, I just don't agree with it. I think that it is a gatekeeper. It keeps people out who have no clue, and it makes it hard for people to learn it. It's hard for people to understand all of the legalese and understand the whole process. And I think that if elected officials truly, truly wanted people to be involved, they would make it their business to get out there and really start interacting with people and not just sitting for so many terms. It's like they're so used to sitting in office that they'd rather stay there, so they don't want to go out and meet people and talk to people because they don't want to lose their position. Government is not a career. I just don't, unless you're not elected. If you're an elected person, you shouldn't see this as a career. It's not a career. It's an opportunity for you to give back, serve as a servant leader, and then train the next people coming up so they have an opportunity to be a part of reshaping the quality of lives that we all share. This is the week to reflect on where your silence has been mistaken for agreement. You're not saying anything, they think you agree. And where your voice could be a spark for overdue change. Right, going back up to the top about workplace, challenging traditions. Right? Challenging the traditions. It's okay. Your advocacy is not about having the right words. It's about knowing what you stand for and being unapologetic about saying it out loud. I think that sometimes I struggle with that, right? Because I think people just assume that you believe a certain way just by how you look, and they just assume and they just think. And you're like, no. I know I look a certain way, and I know that people that look like me might feel a certain ways most of the time, or probably you're wrong or you're assuming. But I am an individual, and I cannot speak for everyone. I speak for myself. And everybody should be speaking for themselves. I think it's crazy when we expect a leader to go into office and they're going to do everything that you want. You are 1 out of 10,000. You're 1 out of 60,000 people. Really? It's crazy. More people should be getting involved, and elected officials shouldn't think that this is their career for life. It's not. It's about reshaping community, using policies to reshape community where everyone has an opportunity to contribute, where everyone feels like they have the power to make a difference. And it really starts with knowing that your voice is policy, stepping up. It's okay if you don't know everything. And that's one of the reasons that, I do what I do. If you're thinking about you want to run or you want to learn a little bit more and you want resources, definitely reach out to me. Definitely reach out to me, because I think that that's one of the things that I want to see. I'm not even going to say I think. I know. What I want to see is more people get involved. Is everybody going to win every office that you run for? No, but get out there, because you learn a lot. Maybe it's not running for office, but maybe you get in and you start running for a campaign, and before you realize it, you realize that you have a calling that you didn't realize was there, but because you took a step out in a direction, it moved you closer to what you're meant to be doing. But I believe that everybody's called to help shape our community, shape the communities that we live in, and it really is using your voice and actually being a part of the full process. Being a part of the full process. Getting involved, starting locally, and knowing that locally it grows. But start locally. Find out what's happening in your own backyard and then scale that up. The reflective prompt: where in my community, industry, or circle of influence am I being called to speak up? What bold truth have I been quiet about, and what small action could give it wings? Find your voice. Find your advocacy voice. You have a voice, and there's things that you care about. And as you speak up, other people will hear and be able to probably jump on board some way, somehow. And it's not about groupthink, but it's about coalition building. What is coalition building? It means that we're not going to believe in the same thing. We don't believe in everything the same. We can't, because we have two different lives. And if we do, okay, super cool. But what can we agree on? How can we work together in that agreement? How can we do that? Right? I'm all about coalition building. I'm just not for a group think. We're all not going to think the same. Don't even put that pressure on me. That's why I don't care for platforms, political party platforms, because it's like putting you in a box. You believe this or that? No, I believe none. I'm either or. Like, I like some of this, I like some of that. And you have me with that. I'm not political enough to make a difference. That's some BS. Yes, you are. What does political enough even mean? Honestly, I feel like that's an energy that people have used to gatekeep regular, everyday people from getting involved. It makes you think like you have to be some mean, nasty person to get involved in politics. And that's not true. You have to be somebody that cares about your community, somebody who's going to listen, somebody who really wants to see change and see a difference. And you're not trying to control people. You're not trying to dictate how people live their lives. You're trying to figure out, how do we come together so that everybody feels like they're living their best life. Political enough is just a gatekeeper. It's just a wall to keep people out, to keep people with a heart out. And that's some BS. The bold truth is that leadership is political. It's about being able to talk and speak your truth. My voice has impact, and silence is also a choice, right? So politics is so funny, because I always laugh about this, is because, like, my family's from Haiti. And so when I think about, and I love to play around with words, of the etymology of words. But this one, I just kind of did on my own. So I wasn't like I looked it up, but parler, right? Like, you look at parler, politique, like parler means that you're talking. It's just a lot of talking, right? It's a lot of trying to understand what's going on. Politics, just the constant chattering. But you've got to use your voice. Your voice is so important when it comes to politics. Right? You have something to say. You've lived on this world. You've lived in this earth. You've lived in your community. You're at your job, wherever it is. You know what's up. You have a voice. Use it. Share it. And when you don't use it, know that that's powerful as well. Because when you're not speaking, when you don't step up against something, then you're for it. But the way that, we do it these days, sometimes it's just too much. It's too extra, but I really do believe that it doesn't require a huge campaign. It doesn't require all of that. It just, if you know what it is that you're looking for, you're following policies, you see what's happening, you reach out to your local elected officials. Make some time to talk to them, share your thoughts, have conversations with people in the community. But your voice is policy. We need your voice. Show up in this space. Leisure and fun. So for this week, leisure and fun, let your weird out, right? Like because we already talked about what the energy of this week is bringing, right? It's bringing a lot of shedding of old processes. That means a lot of old feelings, old emotions, old things that we thought have been suppressed are coming up and are being surfaced. And it's just a lot going on. You're challenging, you have to challenge people at work. You have to challenge processes, I should say, challenge processes at work. Learning to speak up for yourself and not shrinking. I mean, there's a lot of energy going on. It's like, so how do you find fun? Well, laugh too loud. Express joy without restraint. Don't close your mouth when you're laughing. Laugh it out. Laugh it out. Try something new. Be strange and fully alive. Let your authentic self shine. It's not time to be like, well, oh no, I'm not going to do that in front of, maybe if you're in front of the wrong people, then you need to get in front of the right people and just be you. Be you and have fun. If you laugh and you snort, well, then you snort while you're laughing. I mean, that's what it is. Uranus and Venus both love to surprise us with pleasure in the unexpected. You don't need more productivity this week. You need more playful disruption. Laugh too loud, try something new, be strange and fully alive. Fun is not a reward, it's a reset. The most powerful ideas, solutions, and insights often arrive when you stop trying to force them. Right? Like when we're just done trying to make things happen, right? Just trying to make it happen a certain way. Sometimes you're doing too much. Sometimes we're just doing way too much. Sometimes it's about setting the intention, knowing what it is that we want to do, and then kind of just relaxing a bit. Like, and I'm not saying like being reckless, but sometimes you're being too hard. You're just all up on it. Like back up a little bit, back off. Right? The reflective prompt. Where am I overdue for some unstructured joy? What would it look like to plan something fun just because it excites me? When was the last time you did something that you wanted to do it just because it excited you? Because it sounded so fun. You're like, you know what? This is what I'm going to do. When's the last time you did something like that? When is the last time that you've let yourself just chill out and just be a child again? Really tap into that inner child. Because even in the Bible, right, when Jesus talks about you have to come as a child, there's something in that. There really is something in that. And I think that sometimes we kind of skip over that message, that there's something deeply spiritual about that coming as a child. Play is meant to be a natural thing for us, right? Playing, being creative and just having fun. That's supposed to be a natural thing for us, but it's as if, it's been zapped out. And that's what I say, like, when part of my series, Let Her Rise, her also is about bringing that wisdom side, the right side of the brain, right? Really tapping into that right side of the brain and having more fun in life, right? Not feeling like you always have to be so serious. Everything has to be so serious. Analyze this, analyze that. Oh, it has to be this, it has to be that. Sometimes it doesn't have to be any of that stuff. Sometimes you're just having fun. And when you come as a child, you're able to do that. You're able to just let yourself go and not feel like you have to perform, right? None of that performing wholeness. No more performing. Actually come as a child. Use a childlike perspective. And children, when they're having fun and they're playing with toys, they're not questioning, what is that for? They're like, oh, I'm going to use this as this. I'm just going to do it. Like, I'm just going to play with this helicopter and make it jump on the bed or something. Like, you know what I mean? They're not looking for, oh, how is this supposed to work? They're just having fun. And you just never know what can come out of that. Right? I'll relax when I've earned it. That's some BS. I always hear people say that. And I don't even like it when I hear it, when I would say it. I'm just like, no, I don't even like that. I'll rest when I'm dead. No. I'll rest while I'm alive and have fun. Like, I really want to enjoy this life. And having fun truly is a reset. So that's some BS. The bold truth is that play is productive. Pleasure is prophetic. My joy is part of my leadership. I love that. Like, pleasure is prophetic. That part that's a gem right there. Why is that a gem right there? Pleasure is prophetic. Because when you are allowing yourself to feel pleasure and feel the fun of joy, it's inevitable. All the things that you're looking for, all the things that are going to be attracted to you, they're coming. It's coming. It's coming because you're resonating at an energy that is fun and playful and free and becomes prophetic for you because you attract. You attract. When you're in that resonance, when you are transmitting that resonance, you attract. You attract. And you might not realizing, but you're attracting. Sometimes, I know sometimes like we'd watch stuff on TV and sometimes you're just like, they are having so much fun. Like, this world is going through all of this and look at these people on here and they're just having a good old time spending money. And sometimes, and it's like, why are we hating on that? Can't be mad that they're resonating at a higher frequency. They're resonating at a frequency that makes them highly magnetic. They're having fun. When you're having fun, you attract. You're not chasing. You attract all the things that belong to that resonance, right? Let your weird out. So for the bold step forward, the mini challenge that I have for you for this week is propose a bold idea. Shake up the norm with an innovative suggestion in whatever space that you want to, right? But propose a bold idea. Propose a bold idea. Go against the norm. Go against the grain. Something that you've wanted to do that's innovative, that's kind of risky, but set that chance, set that up for yourself. Say no with grace. Set boundaries firmly, but kindly. Don't shrink. If you don't agree with something and somebody's asking you to do something, no, thank you. But thank you for thinking of me. Right? Whatever that might, whatever is similar to that sort of response. Laugh out loud. Bring lightness when others are too serious. Find fun in everything. It might be a little irritating for some people. They might be triggered by it, but it's not your business. Right? Like if you allow your heart to be your compass, it is not your business if people get upset. You can definitely, engage in conversation if it makes sense, but it's not your responsibility to feel bad because, you're approaching things from a child. And what I mean, child, that fun perspective. Initiate a conversation, address what you've been avoiding. If there's something that needs to be said, just find a way to have that conversation, address it. When you take action, it shows your sovereignty. It shows that you're able to make decisions. It really shows leadership qualities, right? Address it. Say or do one thing this week that feels slightly risky, but deeply aligned. This could be, okay, and those are the things that we talked about already. Let the discomfort be the sign you're not shrinking, right? If you feel discomfort, that means you're expanding. Right? It means you're expanding. When you're expanding, it's because you're probably not used to taking up that much space and you're expanding. Well, continue to expand. That's good. You're not shrinking. You're meant to take up space. So your bold activation, like a meditation as well. Close your eyes. Center yourself in the present moment. That might mean, you're sitting in a chair. Feel yourself in that chair. Feel your bottom sitting in the chair. Feel the bottom of your feet touch the ground. Right? Lift your shoulders up and then let them rest. Feel yourself in the present moment. Sometimes even rubbing your fingertips together. Look around. Just be aware. Right? Be aware where you are. Okay, center yourself in the present moment. Close your eyes. Now visualize your future self. 1 year from now, you are bold, grounded, and unapologetically clear. You say what you need to say when it needs to be said. Boom. Identify, what did your future self stop tolerating? What boundaries did they set for themselves this week? Right? What did they set for themselves? Have a conversation with your future self. You're bold, you're grounded and unapologetically clear. You say what needs to be said. What did you do? What boundaries did you have to create to get to this point where you are those things, that you are bold? And as you're having that conversation, make note of those things that because your intuitive side is definitely going to come up and it's going to tell you those things because you know what you need to stop doing to get to where you want to get to. But sometimes for some reason we ignore it. We push it down. But this week is not the time for that. It's a time to acknowledge everything that's rising up to the surface. Take action now. Take action. Take action. Don't sit on it. Start setting those boundaries for yourself. Start believing in yourself. Start believing that you have everything that you need to get things done. You just have to put it in action. You have to believe in yourself. So, the parting words that I have for you: you were wild once. Don't let them tame you. Isadora Duncan. I love that quote. You were wild once. And when you think about that, you were wild once, it's like going back to that inner child, right? There was a one point in your life where as a child, you just had fun. You didn't question things, right? You just had fun and you just went with the flow and you played and you played and you played. And then as we grow up and we get older, we've been tamed. Somebody's telling us, you shouldn't act like that. You shouldn't act like, you shouldn't say this. You shouldn't say that. Why are you doing that? Why does your hair look like that? What are you wearing? Before you know it, you're like, okay, tell me how you want me to dress, how you want me to speak, where you want me to show up, what you want me to do. I believe that dispensation is over, right? Don't let them tame you. Be who you're meant to be. Be your authentic self. Let your vision speak louder than your fear. Have that vision, right? In order to be able to let your vision speak louder, you have to have a vision. Do you have a vision? What is your vision? Get clear about your vision so it can speak louder. It can hush fear, because fear is supposed to talk. Fear is doing exactly what it's supposed to do. If your vision isn't doing what it's supposed to do, it's because you haven't made it clear. Make your vision clear so that your vision can show up and show out for you. Strength and softness. Let your softness meet your strength. It's not about all this, You know, it's about understanding that vulnerability is power too, because not everybody's willing to be vulnerable. Vulnerability, pulling down your walls, pulling down your guards, and being honest with yourself and saying, what is it that I'm trying to accomplish and how can I get myself there? Maybe the way that you've been being is not supporting you. Are you able to see that for yourself? Do you need somebody else to tell you that? I don't think you do. I think you're fully aware of where your softness needs to step in. And then bold leadership. Lead like the future depends on your boldness, because the future does. The future really depends on people who are not going to be afraid to really know their value, stand in that, stand in loving kindness, and then still say, yeah, I disagree with that. Right? It's going to take bold leadership, because right now we are in the stages of dismantling. Things look like they're falling apart. It does look like it's chaos, but it's not chaos. It's time for leaders like you to really step up and stand out. It's your calling, right? The chaos means they're looking for a leader like you to be able to be bold and to really step into that space. Let your vision speak louder than your fear. Lead like the future depends on your boldness, because it really, really, really does. And until the next orbit. So let me tell you about Be Bold, Be You. I just don't provide services. I create experiences that spark reflection, ignite courage, and move people into aligned action. From strategic HR consulting and performance coaching to think tanks and transformational workshops, my work is about helping leaders and organizations shift from stuck to bold. As an energetic coach, I tune into what's beneath the surface, guiding clients to align mind, mission, and momentum so they can lead with integrity, influence, and intention. So if you're ready for transformation that sticks, and not just checklist, right? Because it's not about checklists. It's not about helping you to do the things that you say you want to do. It's about helping you to become the person that just naturally does these things, where your energy vibrates, where people come into your presence and they just feel like, okay, I know that I'm going to be able to make it here. I know that I'll be heard here. I know that I'll be welcomed here. I know that I can be challenged here and grow here. If you're looking for that sort of transformation, let's connect and schedule a 20-minute strategy session with me. But until the next orbit, bye.